Happy game day, everybody, and welcome back into the VFL's Players Lounge. It's brought to you by the Volunteer Club, powered by Spire Sports, and there is a big one today. It's Tennessee at LSU, the 4-0 Vols, visiting the 4-1 Tigers of LSU, a top 25 showdown, number 8 Tennessee and number 25 LSU. I'm Eric Cain. Welcome back into the VFL Players Lounge. Every single game day right here on Volquest. We've got you covered, and we chat with a variety of former Vols. And this week, I'm really excited to bring onto the show. We've got a guy that's played very, very well in that 2005 game against LSU, former running back Gerald Riggs. Gerald, what's up, man?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Hey, doing really, really well. Looking forward to you recalling a lot from that football game back in 05 and kind of previewing this game moving forward to today.
Yeah, man, that was definitely one of the more memorable games I ever played in. Just having the chance to go down there and get a big win against a good team under some crazy circumstances, man. It was a good one, man, but it was fun.
Yeah, no doubt. It's one to look back on for sure. So we got Gerald Riggs, we got the running backs covered, and now let's bring on a guy that you're probably very familiar with in Jayson Swain here in the Knoxville market. Swainer, what's up, dude?
What's up, guys?
Hey,
what's going on, Swain?
Appreciate you being on here for sure here today, and we'll just go ahead and get started, guys. Gerald, you kind of mentioned a few things right there, but Jayson, it's LSU. For this game in particular, what's it mean for Tennessee today? I feel like every game's a big one. Obviously, you only get so many, but this one really is another top 25 showdown for Tennessee.
It's a new challenge against a team that has shown a lot of resiliency. I mean, they haven't been necessarily impressive offensively. At times, look uninterested in playing football, but they found a way. They found ways to win. They've been down several games, but they found ways to win. They have athletes all over. First-year coach Brian Kelly, you understand that he's trying to kind of build his culture and work with the guys that he has. A lot of transfers, but the atmosphere is always dynamic down there in Baton Rouge. Doesn't matter if the game is at 11 a.m. Central Time or if it's a night game. So I know Tennessee is preparing for that noise.
Gerald, what have you thought of Tennessee so far this year? It's obviously, it's early in the season. You play a couple cupcakes. It is what it is. But, 2 Power Fives, of course, Florida last weekend. I bet that was obviously an electric feeling for, former Vols to get that win over Florida. But what have you liked and seen from Tennessee so far this year?
I've liked our energy this year. I think we've, taken turns in terms of just overall as a team coming out and trying to be consistent. Like you said, it's not against the greatest of competition just of yet, but I'm seeing good things that from last year are a big change. I think our offense obviously is gotten more continuity from the standpoint we had guys in that offense longer. Still want to see some different things from our defense. Would love to see us get a little bit more pressure on the quarterback, but other than that, I think we've done pretty well so far. But getting into the meat of our schedule, I should say, we'll see exactly what kind of team we are for real.
Would you have liked to have played in this offense?
With the holes that they're getting, absolutely. There's some wide open holes from the run game standpoint, just with how we do things in the passing game and how everybody's got to cover the whole field and everything opens up. Absolutely. With the backs we had at the time, I think we probably would have run from close to 3,000 as a team.
Yeah, no doubt. Some really, really good running backs back in your day, of course, and you being one of them. Jayson, we hear you every single day, noon to 3 on the Sports Animal with Josh Ward. But what's been your biggest takeaway so far of Tennessee this year? Has it been pretty much what you expected? Any surprises and any concerns maybe entering today or moving forward?
I mean, there's always concerns. I think anytime you are at the beginning of the football season, Tennessee's only played 4 games, so there's a ton of weaknesses. There's a ton of strengths, and your opponent, it's their job to exploit those weaknesses into a win. For Tennessee, you haven't had an opponent be able to exploit the weaknesses enough to win. You have seen the defense play poorly at times, but you've also seen defense help win games. That happened at Pittsburgh. We've seen the offense play poorly at times. So LSU, it's their job to try to exploit the weaknesses of Tennessee to win. And so far, it's been really hard to do. Um, I've been impressed with how we've been able to have guys step in, Tillman being out, and Ramel Keaton and Brew McCoy go out there and make big plays. I'm a big Jabari Small fan. Love that he has gained the weight and how he played against Florida. Very, very proud of him. Our front seven has, I thought, grown up a lot, and they're playing better. The back end, they got to get better because they're going to be challenged in a huge way. I thought Florida did a really good job of exploiting that weakness, and I think opponents moving forward will see opportunities in the passing game.
When you look at LSU, Jayson, obviously there's some injury concern there at quarterback, but I think he's going to be okay and be able to go today. But it looks like to me like an offense that's kind of, they look pretty decent at times, and then it looks like they have no clue what's going on at times. Defensively, it looks like a good ball club, and of course they'll face their biggest challenge today. But offensively, it looks like it's kind of a work in progress. Defensively, it looks like a pretty solid unit.
Yeah, offensively, Jaden Daniels is their best running back. He's the best option on the ground, and I think the main reason is because he hasn't been able to trust himself throwing the football, and you got to be able to spend time with your receivers to throw the ball before they're open because you trust that they're going to be in the right place. Well, those guys haven't had that time. Jaden Daniels transferred from Arizona State. You have some talented wide receivers, but that trust factor is not there yet. And you can tell. That's why he's not letting the ball go before guys are open, and that's why he's pulling the ball down and running. Now, they've had success doing it to a certain extent, but again, it's a weakness of theirs, and their upcoming opponent, which is Tennessee, will try to exploit that weakness. Auburn did a good job for most of the football game, and that's why they were up 17-0 at one point. But LSU's offense is work in progress for sure. LSU's defense have athletes all over the field. Ojulari is a problem for opposing quarterbacks, especially guys who want to hold the ball in the pocket. Hendon Hooker hasn't done that. He hasn't had that issue at all. LSU has not faced an offense like Tennessee. So first year head coaches and DCs, they tend to have a little bit of an issue, even though Matt House did go up against Josh Heupel when he was offensive coordinator in Missouri. But I don't think Missouri ran this type of offense that we're seeing from Tennessee when Heupel was at Missouri.
Hey, Gerald, when you look at LSU, they've got about 4 running backs that's, I mean, they don't have a bell cow. They don't have a guy that they can truly say, hey, go get us these yards. I mean, all 4 of their running backs that they played all, have around 28 to 30 carries. If you're a running back in that system, kind of how difficult is that? Knowing that you'll probably get to play, but also just not knowing kind of what the plan is week to week.
It can be difficult because you want to get into a rhythm. Obviously, sometimes, good backs usually take a couple carries to get in the game and get going. When you're in a situation like that, you're always just switching in and out. So it's hard to get a rhythm in that situation, which can be tough, especially when you need a lot of production out of that position. It just depends on how that room is situated. I remember when I was in school, we had several running backs that would go in and out the game, and we settled into the fact that, hey, when you get in, you make the most of your opportunities. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses and what they do well. And when you get in, you do the things that you do well and just focus on those. So it just kind of depends on what kind of leadership you have in that room. And how those guys, get ready for games and get going. But we'll see. I mean, it's just really hard to get in a rhythm like that when you have, just guys coming in and, in and out. It's really tough.
Kind of a sidebar here, but I mean, when you were at Tennessee, Gerald, I mean, you guys, both of you and Jayson both had some guys on that team, but for you in particular, you had some guys in that running back room, man, that you just sat back, you watched, you learned, you played with, you complimented, and then when they left, you were the guy. I mean, how cool was that experience? I know you probably get asked this question all the time, but I mean, man, that was what a room. That was a crazy room.
Yeah, it was great for me because it was always competition. I mean, you had to show up every single day in practice. You had to show up every single time you got your opportunity in the game. You never got a chance to sit back and just say, well, hey, man, I'm the guy now. I can kind of relax and go out there and just enjoy playing. You had to show up every day with your A game because you could get your spot taken real quick. You know what I mean? Which was great for us because it made us get ready for the games and made us be ready for our opportunities when they came. I remember when I was a young guy. When I came in, obviously Travis had just left the year before. So, Cedric and Jabari were there. And, we had some other guys that were kind of in the mix. Derek got moved to receiver. But, just having to always compete with those guys for that playing time. And then I remember when I finally, got in there and was in there on a regular basis, the way Sed and I just kind of fed off of each other. It was great. Hey, when he was up, I would back him. When I was up, same thing. There would be times where, in certain games, he would be struggling a little bit, and I come in and do my thing and kind of break things open, and vice versa. So and then when Monterio and Aaron got there as well, same thing. When those guys got their opportunity, they had to fight and claw and scratch for every opportunity that they got, but when they did, they made the most of it. So it was great to be in that setting, in that running back room, and I think the leadership that started out with, like I said, with Cedric and Jabari, some of those guys that were there before kind of understood how things went, and it just passed it down, from guy to guy. And, we had some good years out of everybody.
We're going to get back to LSU in a minute, I promise. But one other question kind of on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. You and Cedric Houston had a year where both of you guys ran for 1,000 yards, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think
that doesn't happen in today's football too often, 2 1,000-yard rushers.
I think we were the first to do it in the SEC, and then I think the next one was Darren McFadden and Felix Jones. They did it a couple of years later, which to me was crazy, because you would think with all the great backs that Tennessee has had over the years that that something like that would have happened once already or before, or a couple times before. But I was just I just remember being astonished that we were the first two to do it.
Yeah, it's certainly something that obviously I remember pretty well from back in my childhood. Hey, Jayson, when you look at LSU, one of the more intriguing storylines I think coming up for today is obviously Hendon Hooker and Tennessee's passing attack and how they're going to get there. But that secondary for LSU, man, it is patchwork. It is, and I say that, and we'll see how good they are, but they're all transfers. I mean, Jay Ward is a safety who's been there for a while, but you have 2 safeties that came over from Arkansas. You have 3 cornerbacks, one from Oklahoma State, Ohio State, one from Louisiana. All these guys have played a whole lot of football. I feel like that's got to be something obviously Tennessee's going to try to exploit, because this will be game number 6 that they play together. They're probably still trying to figure out how to play off one another, right?
No, for sure. And Gerald's 1,000-yard season and Houston's 1,000-yard season, it helps to have receivers downfield blocking to spring those big runs, Jared. I'm just saying, the receivers, they do something too. They block too.
Hey, what is it? It's linemen block for first downs, receivers block for touchdowns. Is that right?
That's right. So I feel like I'm a part of history too here. So, LSU's defensive backfield. You mentioned it, Eric. They have some guys that they haven't played a lot together, and I think that's important when you are trying to throw off the opposing offense by stemming around. Showing cover 2 pre-snap, rolling in cover 3, trying to disguise some coverages. You got to know where you need to be on the snap of the football. Also, it's very, very helpful to know your teammates. So if you have a corner, your safety, and you need to help to that particular side versus this receiver, it helps when you play a lot of football together. These guys may not have all the time to stem around, to disguise coverages because of the tempo of Tennessee. But it's going to be a phenomenal challenge, because athletically, you don't play LSU if you don't have athleticism. But they don't have the chemistry because they haven't played a long time together. Like for Tennessee's secondary, they may have their shortcomings, but at the safety position, these guys have played a long time together, and they kind of know what each other's thinking and what each other's doing pre-snap, and they've had a lot of experience together. So when you look at LSU's secondary, there's plenty of opportunities for sure. When you look at Josh Heupel's experience and how he likes to dissect certain defenses each game, presents a new opportunity. You look at last 2 weeks ago against Florida, where Drew McCoy is wide open in the seam. Well, that's something that they saw on film with motion and those guys not being able to shift and be in the right position. So I'm pretty sure Josh Heupel sees plenty of opportunities on film from LSU's previous 4 games.
What's the answer for BJ Ojulari? Is it 6-man protection with a tight end, a running back? I mean, that guy, one-time Tennessee commit, that guy's a stud.
No, he is, and we saw Hendon Hooker run some speed option where you just don't even block the guy. You just read him, let him go, whatever. Just he can't tackle 2 guys at once. So Hendon leg was a big part of Tennessee's offensive success against Florida. I anticipate that Hendon's going to have to run against LSU. You hope that he doesn't take the same type of shots, but I think his legs will be important in this one. And then it comes down to individual play. You have tackles that have done a pretty good job, Gerald Mincy and Darnell Wright. Hey, this is what it's like playing in the SEC. You're going to play against guys who are going to play on Sundays, and Ojulari is one of those guys.
Yeah, no doubt. He is a good one for sure. Gerald, when you look at LSU, this is a team that, I think there's talent on that roster. I think they can beat you if you're not ready. I mean, Tennessee goes in there today and doesn't have their A game. They can come back with a loss, no doubt about it. But I don't think that they're a team that's obviously going to win the SEC this year, obviously. But they have shown some great resiliency. Down 13-0 to Mississippi State. As Jason pointed out, down 17-0 to Auburn last weekend. I mean, they have come back. They have not quit. And to me, that says, with all the jokes in week 1 on the national championship or the national stage that lost to FSU,
right?
It shows to me that there's some buy-in there. I mean, what does that say to you in terms of a team that just comes back and just isn't giving up so far this season?
Well, like Swain said earlier, you have to be a certain type of guy, to be playing at a LSU. You know what I mean? Like a lot of those guys come from successful programs, and let's not forget, they haven't had that much success the last couple years, but I don't think that's a tribute to talent. I think that's just a tribute to the situation that they've just been in with coaching and turnover and things like that. Every SEC team pretty much, you got to understand that when you show up to play them, it's going to be a dogfight. Regardless of the record, regardless of what's going on, those teams are going to step up and play, play as hard as they can, especially when they have an opportunity to play against somebody to either ruin their season or to, show that maybe they're a lot better than what everybody thinks that they are. You know what I mean? And that's, that's the fun thing about playing in the SEC is that, every week you're going to get every team's A game, especially when you're a team that's, ranked in the top 10 national stage. Everybody's going to be watching you. It's hard to go out there and just imagine that those guys are going to lay down and just say, well, hey man, it's just not our day today. They're going to definitely step up and fight.
LSU's given up just 109 yards on average per game on the ground, which is really, really stout. Again, the 2 blowouts in there against Southern and New Mexico State, but still for Tennessee, and again, something Jason spoke on a moment ago, Hendon Hooker's going to have to run. It's just such a good part of Tennessee's offense. He's got to learn how to finish those runs and get down, get out of bounds. He takes too many hits, but he'll run. But I feel like, for today, Tennessee's going to have to get some running going with obviously Small and Wright. I feel like you don't go on the road in the SEC and win a football game like this unless you can, competently run the football and have that threat on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Your running game has to step up in a game like this. I think, last week I thought they did some good things in the run game. I would have liked to see a little bit more from it, just from a standpoint. We could break a few more tackles. Maybe get some of those big holes that we're getting, and maybe take some more of those the distance. I think we're considerably better than we were last year. Those guys are trying to run a little bit more physical and have more of an effect on the defense. But in a game like this, I think somebody's got to have a breakout game. Somebody's got to step up and be able to go for 120, 130 yards in a game like this. And really take the game over, because like you said, you don't want Hendon Hooker taking too many shots. He does a great job running the ball when he has to. He obviously puts a lot of pressure on the defense, and that's a big part of the offense. But, again, it's a long season. You don't want him taking too many shots. And against a defense like this, it's one of those that will catch him if he's not careful. So, one of those running backs, like I said, just has to step up and make this kind of a statement game for them.
We're going to take a trip down memory lane here in just a couple of moments on that 2005 game. LSU, both these guys played in that football game. But first, I want to get some keys to victory, if you will. Jason, I know you probably had these on Friday's Josh and Swain show, of course. But kind of what are you looking for if Tennessee does this well? Tennessee's going to win the football game outside of the obvious of Hendon Hooker's got to be on, protect the football, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, you can't let Daniels go for Matt Corral numbers on the ground. I mean, that was just ridiculous. Last year where he had 195 yards. I don't think, I don't know, but you can't let Daniels go for over 100 yards. I mean, I thought Tennessee did a pretty good job of keeping Anthony Richardson's numbers down on the ground as much as possible. Now he was efficient from the pocket. I don't think Daniels will do that. But, hey, Richardson did some things that we haven't seen all season, did it against us. So I just think it's important to take away their security blanket, which is Daniels running the football. So keeping him in check in the pocket, I think defensively, don't help LSU out by turning the ball over. I mean, Auburn had LSU right where they wanted them. I mean, 17-0 at home, had all the momentum. And then their backup quarterback is rolling out. Instead of going north and south, he's going east and west, and allow B.J. Ojulari to get to him and create a fumble, and LSU scooped and scored and, put a touchdown on the board that wasn't on offense. So you don't want LSU to be able to score special teams or set up a play where their offense has a short field. And then you certainly don't want to give up a touchdown, special teams, whether it's kickoff return, punt return, or block punt, anything of that nature. So force LSU's offense to score points. And they've shown they're just not that great at it, honestly. And then I think for Tennessee's defense, don't allow the passing game to be born against you. I think that's very, very important. Offensively, I mean, come on, guys. Like, this tempo is going to give LSU some trouble. So don't turn it over. I think it's important that, our receivers in the slot, our receivers on the outside, just continue to do what they did against Florida. I just don't have a lot of concerns about Tennessee's offense because of what I've seen so far. But it would be nice, guys, to see Tennessee's tight ends be more involved. Florida game, Princeton Fant had a rough first quarter, but he bounced back and made a couple of third down catches. Jacob Gordon had a nice catch on the wheel route. I want to see more of the tight ends being used. And I think if you do that, you should take care of business. I think Florida's a better team than LSU, but this week you're playing on the road, Death Valley. So just like 05, hopefully we see some frozen oranges thrown at the bus because
beer cans and everything else.
Yeah, man. Hopefully we see that because those guys are pissed off that they lost.
Yeah, for sure. And Gerald, what's some of those keys to victory today for you? What's Tennessee got to do to come back with a win?
Same thing, kind of like what Swain touched on. Big thing is limit the turnovers, win the turnover battle. I think from a standpoint of the special teams game, make a big play early in special teams. Take the crowd out of the game. You got to understand when you're on the road in the SEC, the crowd has a lot to do with it. If that home team kind of gets going and is able to make a couple plays early and gets that crowd involved and gets loud and starts affecting what the away team's offense does, that can be a huge problem. So get some big plays early. Maybe it's definitely in special teams. Maybe get a punt or get a punt return for some good yardage, or maybe hopefully even score. From that standpoint, I think defensively, same thing. Don't allow them to just kind of settle into their offense, right? Like keep them on their toes, keep them having to guess what to do. Offensively for us, just stay out of bad situations. Really, stay out of bad situations. Don't turn the football over. Obviously, like I touched on before, get some things going in the run game. Get that run game going early because they're already going to be on their heels from a standpoint of the tempo and the passing game and the way that we do things. So having that run game, kind of step up and play a lot bigger in a game like this, I think that would really set the tone for the team in whole.
We got about 15 more minutes left here with Gerald Riggs and Jayson Swain. Tennessee and LSU coming up later today, 11 a.m. local time, noon Eastern time. And of course, you can watch on ESPN. You can listen on the Vol Radio Network, and you can follow along with us on the general quarters and on Twitter at Volquest_on3 for continual updates throughout the game. And of course, your post-game coverage, everything you want. Do want to thank the VFL Players Lounge is brought to you by the Volunteer Club. Couldn't do it without Spire Sports. And here's a message from the Volunteer Club.
The game has changed and Spire Sports is here. With name, image, and likeness arriving, your Orange fandom can now be put into action. Visit thevolunteerclub.com and become a member. 90% of every dollar generated through the Volunteer Club, powered by Spire, will go directly to athletes to improve the student-athlete experience at Tennessee. It's not just about winning the next game, it's about next season. It's about the next generation. It's about the Tennessee legacy. Join at thevolunteerclub.com. That's thevolunteerclub.com.
All right, we're back here on the VFL Players Lounge. We got Gerald Riggs Jr. and Jayson Swain help us out here today. And all right, so I know this is what the people want to hear. Let's take a trip down memory lane. 2005, Tennessee goes down to LSU, and of course the circumstances, they were awful. Hurricane Katrina, that game was delayed a little bit and all that. But the game is played down at in Tiger Stadium, and you go down there, and Tennessee, what was it, guys? Down. Was it 21-0?
I believe so. It was 21-0 or something like that, or 21-7.
21-0. Yeah, here it is. Down 21-0 with about 6:55 left in the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee gets on the board for the first time about midway through the third quarter. So it took a little while.
Yeah.
But man, Tennessee comes storming back, scores 17 in the fourth quarter. You go to overtime. Tennessee wins 30-27. Gerald, we can start with you, man. What when you think of that game, when people ask you about that game, what do you say?
Roller coaster, man. Definitely a roller coaster. I mean, starting from really that Friday leading up to the game. You know, we normally have a routine that we get into and everything to go to the game and travel and get set up and go through that whole process. And I just remember, you know, them telling us, all right, guys, we're not going to be able to travel today. We're going to play the game on Sunday, so we're going to travel till Saturday. We're going to travel tomorrow. And then obviously that trickled over into Sunday. And then they said, all right, guys, well, here's the deal. We're going to get up Monday morning. We're going to go play the game, travel, play the game Monday night, and come back.
I can't believe y'all traveled and played on the same day.
Yeah, that was one of the craziest things. You know, it took you back to high school almost, kind of sense. You know what I mean? Getting on the bus, going to the game. But it was much different, you know, obviously being on a plane, and, you know, we had a much different process from that standpoint of how everybody liked to prepare. And when, you know, I think everybody can agree that I was in that situation. You know, we were just kind of in a fog that first half. You know, it wasn't like they were doing anything special. We just couldn't get anything right. You know, we were just in a fog. You know, everybody was kind of like, all right, man, you know, trying to get going. It's like getting out of bed in the morning. You know what I mean? As old guys now, you try to get your legs going a little bit. You're like, takes you a few minutes. You know what I mean? So, you know, once we were able to set, I remember we came in at halftime, and you know, there's a little bit of back and forth going on, just in terms of what, you know, what needed to be done, kind of what the deal was, and you know, had coach come in and just kind of tell everybody, hey man, chill out. You know what I mean? And in so many different words, but chill out. And, you know, let's just settle down and play some football. And I think, and once, you know, we got back into, once we came out in that second half, you know, having, you know, obviously Eric got hurt in that game, but when Rick came in, you know, that kind of settled everybody too. You know what I mean? Because Rick was everybody's guy. And when, you know, getting in that game and the way that he operated at that position at the time, you know, just kind of settled everybody down. And when we came in that second half, we just got back to doing what we knew how to do. And that's just going out and, you know, and playing good football, man, playing, you know, and executing. And that's what we were able to do, man. We just, you know, trickled away at it, you know, one play at a time. LSU definitely got tired. I mean, they came out with everything they had early in that ball game. And we were a well-conditioned team. I don't believe that there was any other program in the country that was as conditioned as we were. So, you know, for us to be able to kind of rely on that in that game as well. And we just, like I said, we just trickled away, man, in the second half. And play-by-play, and we're eventually able to come back.
All right, Swain, you're over there smirking the entire time. You step up. What do you think of when you think of that game?
Yeah, I remember traveling the day of the game and going to the hotel for a couple of minutes actually,
Right.
and then going to the stadium. And I just remember how humid it was. I mean, it was early in the season, so it was hot, boy. And then the warm ups, walking past Mike the Tiger, like that wasn't fun.
Who was that was like, nah, bro, like I ain't going out there? Somebody that was like they had.
I don't know, but I thought about it. Yeah, I don't know, but I thought about not going out there. I was like, yo, this. I didn't sign up to go to the zoo today, so I don't want to walk past the Tiger. But I remember that. I remember how bad we played in the first half, and like I've never been cussed out. Like I'm a grown ass man. Like if people ain't just be cussing me out and talking to me in any type of way. Like I remember being talked to so bad, and it was a group. It wasn't like it was individual. Halftime you have the locker room, which the visiting locker room is always trash, always raggedy, and always small. But like I remember at halftime, offense was on one side, defense was on one side, and then on each side of the room, you still have your positions still break out into smaller groups in different parts of the locker room. And I remember like my position coach talking so bad to us, Gerald. Like it was so bad, and he didn't care about us traveling the day of the game. Like the excuses at a point, it don't matter. You either get the job done or you don't. And we came out in the second half and made some plays. Gerald was on fire, man. Gerald was in the zone, and this game meant a lot to Gerald for some crazy reason. Like guys like Chris Brown, who's from Louisiana. You have guys that when you play certain teams out of state, you have players from that state, and we know like it means a lot to them. Like we play Alabama, everybody know that I'm going to be ready to roll because I want to beat my old team. Or we play Georgia. There's people from Georgia, but for some reason it was like Gerald thought he was from Louisiana or something. I knew that LSU was a school that Gerald almost went to because of Nick Saban. And so like that game it meant something much more for Gerald, man. He was running possess. Like he was on one that game. That was a fun game. I didn't really do anything. I didn't catch any balls. I ran some pretty good routes, but for me, it was about blocking. I blocked my tail off.
Definitely have some good blocking downfield, man.
I was blocking my tail off for you, man.
Hey, look, I'll tell you that much, man. Like him and Meach and CJ, man, those guys were getting after it downfield, man. They were making it happen. But no, Swain was right, man. Like, my dad's originally from Louisiana. So, there's a lot of people there that were watching that were pretty upset that I didn't choose to go to LSU, ultimately. And I'll be honest, like that was up until pretty much signing day. That was my school. That was my spot. Like that's where I really wanted to go to school. I loved it. But just kind of, there were some things that I found out. It was like, hey, Saban may not be there your whole time there. And, I've been around football pretty much all my life. I know what coaching changes are like. So I was like, no, Tennessee was the best place for me to go. So, but it was one of those opportunities, man, where you get to play against a program that, you've always watched and you've always had respect for. And then again, it was on the national stage. I mean, you wanted to go out and play well. We were coming off of a loss against Florida, I believe it was, in a game where, I felt like I probably could have touched it a little bit more than they gave it to me in that particular game. And, coaches said, hey, well, you're going to get your opportunity to show us that you can put the team on your back if we need to. So, that was just one of those moments where, I just really wanted to show up, for my team and to go out there and, do everything we can to help us get a win.
Man, I remember
Gerald, I think looking at the stats here, you had a touchdown in the fourth quarter, and of course you had the touchdown in overtime to win the game. And I heard Swain had just like crackback blocks on both of them, just downfield getting it right to spray you. So that was good. But when you got in the end zone there in overtime, what was the celebration like on the field in the locker room for you guys? And Swain, feel free to jump in here.
At the time, when they scored that last touchdown, obviously adrenaline's pumping. You know what I mean? At that moment, I just saying to myself at that snap, because before that drive, Randy Sanders, who was our OC at the time, he like looked at me. He was like, "Hey man, are you okay?" And I remember being like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Like, what's going on?" And he was like, "Cool, because you're gonna get this damn ball every time until we score." So I remember saying that's why I was like, "All right, man, take a deep breath and just go out and get it done." And on that last run, I was exhausted. Like Swain said a few minutes ago, it was humid. You could cut the air with your hand. I mean, it was humid. You were just sweating every single bit of whatever you had out. Anytime you drank water, it was gone within like 2 minutes. I mean, you had to, it was just water upon water. But it was one of those games where, again, you just had to, it was a gut check. And I just remember saying, "Hey man, just don't stop your feet. No matter what happens on this carry, just do not stop your feet. You know what I mean? Just get your shoulders down, get low, and run as hard as you can." And to get in at the end, and once I realized I was in, it was really just one of those moments of like, at first it was like, all right, man, kind of beats you a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Kind of let you have it a little bit. So, you want to kind of stare him down, you know what I'm saying? Give him that kind of vibe. But then it was just pure exhaustion at the end. We're just after the long game, because even though it was only, Swain said we played numerous overtime games in our career where, games went a lot longer than that. But just because, again, the situation and everything, I think it was just the overall exhaustion of the weekend, man. Once it was done, I know myself, man, I was just exhausted. I couldn't, really think about anything else other than getting into the locker room, get my stuff off, man, and getting on that bus and going back home and getting some rest. But I do remember, at the end though, that everybody was just excited, man. It was kind of like a relief, you know what I mean? For I don't know how Swain felt about it, but I know for a lot of guys too, it was just a relief that it was over with from that weekend, just because of how much had to go into it. And just kind of get off the schneid a little bit. Like I said, we had lost the week before in a season where we were expected to do a lot. And it just felt good to get a win on the road like that.
Swain, tell me what you remember about after that game, the celebration. And then tell me about the frozen oranges and beer cans under the bus.
There were two games I remember overtime where like our players had great walk-off celebration moments. The first one, my freshman year, we were playing Alabama, 5 overtime game, and defensively, it was 4th down and threw the ball to the end zone. I want to say it was Brody Core throwing it to Dre Fulgham, and Jason Allen broke up the pass, took his helmet off, and just threw it down and just mean mugged the crowd. And I was like, "Oh man, that's cool right there." Like Jason Allen looked really cool in that moment. And then 2005 when Gerald scored a touchdown and spiked the ball. I think that was the first time I realized Gerald was left-handed, honestly. And Gerald had the face mask, the visor, the smoke visor, and just Gerald looked so cool, man. He looked so cool. That was 2 cool walk-off moments there where Tennessee won the game. Yeah, LSU fans are pissed off, man. I mean, emotionally, you had Hurricane Katrina, but remember, they had 2 hurricanes that hit. Rita was worse than Katrina. So Rita hit after Katrina, and they had a lot of people that were displaced from their homes. And football was like the thing that kind of brought that whole state together. And I think LSU fans were hoping that they were going to have the type of moment that the Saints had. Remember, the Saints played, I want to say the Falcons, and nothing that the Falcons did was right. Like the Saints they just came in and just
the
beat
Falcons
down
couldn't
the
do
Falcons.
Falcons couldn't do any right that game. I remember.
Oh yeah. And I think the LSU fans felt like that was supposed to happen for their team, and in the first half it did. And then Tennessee came back and we won that game, but they were pissed off and they were emotional, and I'm sure most of them were drunk and just didn't know how to handle their disappointment. So I guess they took it out on the bus and us and throwing.
Well, you remember the lady? You remember
like
the? I don't know if you remember the lady that when we first came in, because you have to come down that skinny road behind the stadium that they send the buses down, where all of the main tailgates for LSU are. I don't know if you remember the old lady. She had to be pushing 80. That took she literally went to the keg and filled up a whole beer just to throw it at the bus. She had her tiger tail on with her hat and her beads. And I think that was the other one where they threw a
Beats.
full beer can and broke one of the windows on the administrative bus where all the front office people were. They broke that bus because I remember God rest her soul, Miss J, she called me and was like, "Hey, baby, you guys all right up there?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're fine, man. You know, they just rocking the bus a little bit." She was like, "Well, they're breaking windows back here."
Yeah,
Oh,
I do not. I'm not surprised at all, man. It was an emotional time for the Louisianans down there, and I know it was special for guys like Chris Brown that went to high school down there and knew a lot of guys on the football team. So we need that win, man. After kind of allowing Florida to escape, we go down there and had an opportunity to beat Florida. It was a low-scoring game. Defense had a great game plan, and offensively, we kind of pitched down our leg. So it was good to see Rick in that huddle, and everyone had belief in him. And he's a guy that played at LSU, so he had a lot of friends on that team too.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people felt like he should have been the starter, and so I know offensively they just wanted to do it for him. And that was just a really, really, really cool moment, man, to have Rick come in and kind of lead Tennessee to a victory, and then Gerald had the game that he had.
Obviously, fun to look back on and kind of talk about like we've been doing here. And hopefully a game tonight will be, or today rather, will be the same for Tennessee at LSU. It's a game where the Volunteers looking to go 5-0 and come back and set up a big-time showdown with Alabama. But first, you got to go to handle business on the road. It's never easy against the LSU Tigers. Out the door, guys, I want your score predictions, but also I want a bold prediction. So whatever you feel, it can be a 100-yard rusher, 2 interceptions, whatever the case may be. Swain, what's your score prediction and a bold prediction for today, Tennessee LSU?
I think Tennessee will win by a touchdown. I think Tennessee will cover the spread. I still haven't gotten that number down just yet. But I do think Tennessee is good enough to win by a touchdown. I know the line has been moving all week, up and down, but I like what Tennessee offensively, the matchup against LSU's defense, and then LSU's offense is struggling, and they don't have an Anthony Richardson against Tennessee. So I'll say Tennessee scores by touchdown, and then a bold prediction. I think Tennessee will get themselves a non-offensive touchdown in this game. So how about that? A non-offensive touchdown in this game. That's a pretty bold prediction. That takes a lot of pressure off of Hendon Hooker to be able to score without even being on the football field.
Yeah, I like that. A non-offensive touchdown, special teams, and of course, it could come on defense. Gerald, what do you got? Score and bold prediction.
I'm gonna go a little bit more on the score. I think we'll win by 10. I think that we'll be able to come out and get some things done, and break it open a little bit more than that. But bold prediction wise, I think we get a couple sacks on defense. I think we get a couple sacks. Obviously set that offense back, and then I think we get a big score in special teams.
I like it, guys. Awesome stuff. Really appreciate it. You guys joining the VFL Players Lounge Game Day Podcast here at Volquest.com. Awesome stuff. Appreciate your analysis, your thoughts, and of course, revisiting that 0-5 Tennessee win at LSU. Gerald, Jayson, appreciate you guys, and please come back anytime.
Thanks for having me.
We enjoyed it.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right. That's going to do it here for this edition of the VFL Players Lounge, brought to you by the Volunteer Club, powered by Spire Sports. As always, please follow the general quarters and at Volquest_on3 throughout the game day for continual coverage. You can find me on Twitter as well at _Cainer. It's Tennessee at LSU today, 11 a.m. local, noon Eastern. We'll see if the Volunteers can get to 5-0 before coming back to Knoxville. Guys, thank you so much. Really enjoy it. As always, this has been the VFL Players Lounge.